What's that quote? It says that if you tell a lie loud enough and often enough, people will believe it.
Yep,
That's right.
absolutely.
And so I think that it's so crazy. People have been taught how to read the Bible.
Hey, everybody, I just wanted to jump in real fast and I wanted to say that we had technical difficulties the other night when we had Metaphysics Mike on, and we weren't able to catch the majority of his actual testimony. So it ended up turning into about an hour long discussion just back and forth. And it actually went over pretty well. You guys are really going to enjoy this. Stick around.
Change my heart, giving me a brand new start. My old man is in the grave, and I'm not looking back at another day. No, I'm living anew, transformed by the mercy of you. Yahoo, your words alive and changing me as I seek your face.
So, one thing that also comes to my mind is I'm really glad that Torah observant Christians sort of got to me first. And, it's not that they really got to me. It started with just me reading the Bible. I can remember when I was reading Acts chapter 10, Peter has this vision, and I think it's like verses 26 like to 28, something like that. He says, God has shown me not to call any man common or unclean. And
Mm-hmm.
my whole life I had been told, like, Peter was being shown that he could just eat anything that he wanted.
Yep.
And that started this whole sort of journey of just questioning everything I had been taught. And I just think it made so much sense having come out of a Christianity where there weren't clear boundaries. And if there were, they just weren't set strong enough. I didn't quite understand
Yeah.
uh, that now it's like God wants us to keep his commandments, right? And the whole work of the Spirit is one of righteousness, and he changes your desires and, victory over sin. That's what I needed, that
Absolutely.
changed my whole perspective on really what it meant to follow Christ. And I think many people get caught up in other things than that. I mean, there's so many other Christian traditions out there. A theme on my channel is like truth over tradition, and that's not to
Absolutely.
say there is no good tradition, but you many people, I think they associate their identity more with, well, I'm a Catholic, or, I'm Eastern Orthodox, and, I hold this particular view, on the nature of God, the Trinity, etc. And that's bankrupt. There's nothing in that is practical and is a work of the Spirit in your life. So I'm so thankful whenever I think about it. Is all I'm trying to say, that I was able to get drawn into a faith tradition of Christianity, which was just emphasized on actually trying to live like Christ,
Yes.
right? And it wasn't in our big disagreements. Like, we allow nuance, and how particularly do you view, pre-existence, or like those aren't the greater things of our faith, right? My faith is not in my ability to comprehend the nature of God and in what, particular mode of existence Jesus has. Like, that's just not it. But those are precisely the types of things that Christians would faction over later in history. So I feel tremendously blessed that I was reached by, I think, the best and earliest examples of really what it means to be a Christian, which is not founded upon all those other traditions.
Absolutely.
That's
Yeah.
awesome, Mike. We just recently in our Shabbat studies, is we just went over the question that we get often is, what denomination are you guys? What do you guys? What religion are you? We get that a lot.
A lot.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
But what we ended up saying is that we are just followers of the way. And I
Period.
did a 4 to 5 week study on that for our
Mm-hmm.
group, and it was exactly proving that point.
Hmm.
If your denomination, religion, what's the other word I used? There's another
I
word
don't
for all
remember.
those sects, I guess, the different types of religions. If it's been created by man, then you know that it's not the original one.
Absolutely.
Period. If
Yep.
you just look at it like that in a simple, the most simple, logical way, if it's been created and there's a time that some guy had a vision or some lady uh, decided to write a book or some church decided to turn
Hold hold a
Deviate.
council and take a vote.
There you
Yeah,
go.
yep.
So if that happened, then you know that that's not the original thing that, say, Abraham or Enoch or Noah or any of the patriarchs of the Bible. None of those people were involved in any of that. They were followers of the one true Yahweh, Yahuwah, whatever you want to call them. They were followers of Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh way back when, before religion was ever a thing.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of how I broke it down. And I obviously used the verses. I think Genesis 14 or 15 is the first time that term was used, the way.
Mm.
And it was very interesting by the time it was over with, because I think I've answered a whole bunch of the people in our group's questions.
Yeah.
You don't have to put yourself in a box and say, I only do this. I follow the commandments to the best of my ability, and I'm a follower of Him, His ways, not my ways.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, and one of the things that I have found just in my journey on social media is when many Christians come to discover some of these truths, no matter, whether it's a rejection of the Trinity or it's, a rejection of penal substitutionary atonement or, just anything like that. What happens is people tend to feel alone, and sort of isolated. And to some large degree, there's actually truth to that. And that's really hard to go through, to have to deal with rejection for things which happen to be true, right? That you're just standing up for what's right.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
But I've noticed Torah observance also provides the context to reground yourself out of that position, that feeling of loneliness. And that's not to be confused with the fact that you might have trouble finding fellowship. I'm not trying to say, don't misunderstand. What I'm trying to say is that, the Catholic Church, Orthodoxy, which are the larger bodies of what people think of when we hear the word Christian,
Yep.
they tend to ground what it is they teach and do based on, their apostolic succession, or, they can trace all types of, traditions and liturgy and, the citing of certain creeds, etc. And I get how hard it can be to feel detached from, what you're just constantly told is historical Christianity. But the reality is that Torah observance as a tradition, as a liturgy, as the standard for real procession, which has less to do with if you're of the lineage of Abraham or if you can trace your succession to an apostle. It has to do with doctrine, right? The only real succession is a succession of doctrine. And so all of these things predate them, right? So that's beautiful. And that's also been a blessing in my life, because where do we stand in the greater picture? Well, we go back to the real tradition of the apostles, right? Not
Absolutely.
the new types of things which had to develop so much later.
That's exactly right, Mike. That's a much more elegant way to put that.
It is.
You should have came in on the Shabbat and just been like, "Hey guys, this is what he started to say."
He's much
Okay?
more well-spoken than we are. I like it.
I'm just an old country boy from Arkansas. It's fine, But at the end of the day, you're exactly right, Mike. If we have something that we can pinpoint history on, and you can obviously see that it had a beginning, it's not the original. And there's a lot of different traditions out there that claim originality, and it's easy to open up. Like you said earlier, we have access to so much information. You can't run from it. It's not like you can just sit back and be like, "Well, I didn't know God." He's going to be like, "Hey, bro, you have more availability of information than anybody in history.
Yeah.
What's your excuse?"
Yeah, Romans 1 on steroids, right? Like, like if they knew, right, and are held accountable, what do you think it's going to be with you? You have access to endless knowledge in the palm of your hand, right?
Yes.
Exactly.
Man, that's terrifying to think about, though.
It is terrible.
It will, right? Yeah, that's it, humbling, quick.
Yes, very much so. So, obviously, we agree with you on all of that,
For sure.
all the lovely words and verbiage you used. Um, so okay, I want to go back just for a minute though. So you were raised in a Christian household, and then you kind of did life because of lack of enforcement of boundaries or making those very clear, etc. And then you decided when you were at your rock bottom that that's when you were going to search for God and read the Bible and try to understand it the best you can. And so after that, kind of what happened from there? We know you're married now. You have beautiful children, by the way. Brad showed me a picture. Um,
Thank you.
and and just seems like such a lovely happy family. So kind of like what happened between I'm going to set out to figure this stuff out to where you are today. It was there. Obviously there's ups and downs for everybody. Like you were saying, it's like planting a seed and you have to wait for it to be watered, wait for it to grow and soak up the nutrients. We call that the sanctification walk, if you
That's
will.
right.
Um,
Sanctification process.
and so the more you learn, I always tell people when I'm discussing with them, like the more you know, the more responsibility you have, right?
Yeah.
So like if you know better, you have to do better,
Hmm.
or at least attempt it. And as you said, nobody's perfect. It's in Romans, obviously. It's stamped in there in black and white for anybody who disagrees with that. Um, but
There was only one.
the the whole process is like 1 John 3:4, right, where it says sin is a transgression of the law, and so our point is to try not to. We have to try our best, and that's what the beautiful thing is that, as you said, works are not what saves you or is going to get you to the end.
That's right.
Works prove that faith by doing it and expressing your love for the Father and for what the Son did for you, and knowing that He's true to His promise, where He's going to cover that mistake as long as you keep on trying to follow Him. It says a righteous man falls 7 times. Is
Yeah.
that what it says?
Yeah.
And but he gets up, right? He doesn't just stay down. So what happened from the rock bottom? I'm gonna search this out for myself, going from just reading the Bible, and then who are the Torah people you were just first introduced to, or how did you find them, or like when did that change from what's considered Christianity to Torah observance kind of happen for you?
Yeah, great question. So, at that early period in my life when I began to study, the first thing that happened was I just realized how small I was and how much I didn't know and sort of how detached from, church history. And I didn't know anything about really the church fathers and, um, just where do I fit in the bigger picture? And so coming into the knowledge of Torah observance and sort of that faith tradition of just what applies and we have faith in Christ, and through these things we're basically preparing for an eternal kingdom which will always operate this way,
Absolutely.
right?
Amen.
That
Yep.
the coming back of the Messiah to establish his kingdom, right?
Yep.
How's he going to rule? By the same standard, right?
Yep.
So
America.
America. So that was tough. It was tough to have many of my opinions be challenged and to, that cognitive dissonance
Yep.
at first. And my wife also is much to be thanked and had to go through it with me.
Mm.
One of the, I probably should say this. One of my earlier faults in all of this was how much anger it produced.
Mm.
Just so angry at just how messed up all these things are and how hard it is, and just wishing it was easier, as well as just having eyes that see all the evil in the world in general. Like, it's funny, atheists seem to have this issue with, how there could be a good God if there's so much wrong and evil in the world. But I think the reality is it's harder for people who know God exists and trying to make sense of it, right? Like,
Absolutely.
because then you can't just write him off. Well, he just doesn't exist, and evil is subjective, whatever. But like, no, how, if God is truly good and God really exists and the world's just corrupt on so many levels, whether it's the government, whether it's education, whether it's religion,
Mm-hmm.
even more, you know, conspiratorial stuff and, entertainment like Luciferianism, like it's
Oh man,
intense. It,
it's
it, it,
running
get, it
rampant.
gets real evil exists.
It
Okay. And
does.
it's pretty wild. So anyways, that's, it produced a lot of anger. And I remember my wife as well, she wasn't seeing many of the same things I was at the time. And that also made it hard in our marriage because we're also trying to figure that out,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so that's not a good combination where it's like you're just sort of mad at the world. You learn this truth and you feel betrayed, you feel left out. Now you feel alone,
Mm-hmm.
and and just that anger. So that's probably one of the first things really I had to work through was really, I guess, humbling myself and letting the love of Christ change my perception. And, instead of being angry at, the Sunday church system or whatever, it was really altering my heart perspective that, well, really, these are people whom God just dearly loves. And you were just like them a few years ago. And
Yes.
you don't even still know everything that you should know, anyways, as is.
Yeah.
Right. And it's just that that was, I think, first. That's probably was the general picture, is just dealing with how I feel, dealing with the reality of setting in that, like, wow, so much of what I was taught was wrong, you know.
Yeah.
And so thankfully, with the support of my wife and going through that, and a lot of prayer and a lot of wisely picking my battles and loving unconditionally, God showed it to my wife. And she had a ton of aha moments, and that brought us into even greater unity. And I mean, from there, it's really just been keeping that at the forefront, that we want to honor Christ with our lives. We want to honor God. And, obviously, as a husband and father, I have responsibilities. And so much of my life is, work and trying to supply. And so, many of these other things like my channel, right? Focus, which I'm like laser focused on the Trinity right now.
Yeah.
It's really, and I mean, I think it's immensely important. Don't get me wrong, but all of those things were just taken in stride. So I'm trying to say that since that point, yeah, every doctrine and so much more that I want to learn about, and uh, so many different specific theologies and concepts, the essence energy distinction, right? I've been speaking a lot with Eastern Orthodox. I'm still, learning so much. So I hope that makes sense. I hope you sort of hear like what I was trying to communicate there. All right. Now, to answer your last question, one of the earliest people I was listening to would probably be like, specifically in this sphere, is like Rob Skiba,
Yes.
yeah, Sean Griffin.
Oh yeah.
Okay, okay.
Okay.
Um, they were probably the most influential at first.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah. That's it's ironic. The very first. So we came to the truth around the same time, but I was first, and
Yeah, no, she was.
and
She drugged me along. Like
so
Rob
I
and-
feel that apparently I just found this out, but apparently he thought I was going crazy.
She was going crazy. Crazy for
A little
the truth,
bit.
baby.
Yeah, I was going down tons of rabbit holes and stuff. I had to see them out, see them to fruition and be like, is this true? So I resonate so much with that. But Skiba was like the dude,
Yeah.
and I made Brad watch some of his videos, and then instead of Sean, we had found Adam with Parable of the Vineyard, and
Yeah.
so we were going back and forth between them, and then we had a couple of other guys that we started watching, and now we just kind of go back and forth and do our thing. But like you said, I think that the more you know, the more you learn, the more you don't know and you want to know more. It like makes you feel inept almost at what you're doing sometimes, because there's so much more out there, because our brains can only process and load so much capacity. So when we find a solid truth, we have to just hold solid on that, you know?
Hmm.
And I
Yeah.
think
Well,
that's
we get fried
really
every
important.
now and then, Mike. We're at a point where we're just like, okay, we need to just step back for a moment. This is too much, then we'll just kind
Go
of take
back
a little
and
time
review the
off.
stories we know and then
Yeah, and then we'll
come back
start
to
digging some
some.
more because it's
Huh.
never ending. If you're seeking, I think the knowledge is never ending.
Yeah,
We're
it's
gonna learn
infinite.
so much once he gets back that there's so much in between what he's gonna show us and what we know now.
Yeah.
There's so much. What is it, John, that said if there was a
There wouldn't
if
be
it,
enough room in the whole world.
yeah, there's not enough books in the world to cover all the things he did. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just Yahusha.
Yeah.
That's not everybody before.
Or everything after.
Hmm.
Or everything after. Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, I think that there's something beautiful in being able to do that, being able to take things in stride while keeping what is clear and most important as a
Yes.
priority.
Exactly.
I don't think that same freedom exists in many other Christian faith traditions.
It does
And
not.
in many cases, I think it's actually less of a sort of humble, let's gently teach people, be patient, do life together. It's sort of a, hey, we've already figured out every question you could ever ask, and our answer is you just have to accept it.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Instead of just genuinely saying, I don't know. And I know Peter says we're supposed to have an answer for everything, but that's one I haven't gotten an answer for yet.
Yeah.
I'm searching for it, or let's have a discussion about it, or let's read it together, and maybe the Spirit will unify us in an answer. Yeah, I agree with you
Yeah,
100% on
right.
that.
Instead of, well, actually, Hosius of Cordova in the fourth century,
Just saying,
wrote a
yes,
treatise that's like
yes.
800 pages long and figured all this out. Like,
Yes. So I asked, there's a pastor down the road from where we live. Well, not the pastor, his church is down the road from where we live. But anyway, I went to go see him one day, and that's almost exactly who was like, I asked him a couple of questions about like the holidays. Because I had felt lied to, because we were trying to find, that was back when we were like, well, let's
Right, right.
try to at least get some fellowship with the Sunday people. That was quite a few years ago. And
Couldn't
then we
find
decided
anybody,
not to.
Mike. There was nobody around.
But and that's
dang.
why we started our own house thing. But anyway, to make a long story longer, I went to this guy because he told me that they didn't do any of the holidays or anything like that, and I went and they had like pictures on their website of like the trunk or treat stuff and like Easter eggs and Easter bunnies, and I was like, I thought you didn't celebrate them. He's like, well, we don't. It's just something fun for the kids. And so we got in a big discussion in his office, not an argument, a discussion. He was very nice, and I was trying very hard to be nice, and he just asked me, have you read about the church fathers? And I was like, which one are we talking about? Are we talking about Ignatius, Polycarp, Tertullian? Like, who are we talking about? So he told me I needed to go and read what the church fathers said. And I was like, well, weren't those like 1 to 5 centuries following Yahusha? So shouldn't we just go back to what he said, And I think that I agree with you. That's a very common thing that they lean on is the church fathers
Sure.
around the time that the church was being set up, you know.
Yeah, so I view them as supplemental and
Always.
historical, right? I
Sure.
mean, as well, like they're just great, to learn about history and how they view things.
Absolutely.
But they can't be treated like second inspired canon that can, redefine or exercise authority over what is revealed in the scriptures.
Absolutely.
That's how I see them.
Well,
Agreed,
then it
Mike.
reveals a double standard, right? Because most of the Christians that consider them almost canonical, um, they would have to make room for like Mormonism
Sure.
and Seventh Day Adventism, or Adventist. I don't know if there's an ism on there,
Yeah.
but anyway,
Yeah.
they'd have to make room for these other like modern prophets, right? If they're going
Mhm.
to hold them into account as well.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. The church fathers function like the Hadith in Islam and the Talmud in Judaism.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I
you're
You
right.
agree.
know,
You're right.
like they all have
Commentators.
very similar functions. It's interesting, right? And that's not to say that everything in them is wrong.
Oh no.
Yeah, right. But yeah, I think that's something that I certainly had to deal with when I started to dive in and trying to figure out how do you handle them, how do you take them, and it was so much easier having first been grounded in just like the the things which take priority and seeking to really just live like Christ, to love God, to love other people. Like that's really the ultimate form of our religion. It's being a servant, it's loving others, it's keeping the commandments, it's not all these other things which are never ending
Absolutely.
and difficult.
That's a really good point, Mike. That's exactly how we see it as well. The what would Jesus do thing that was out when we were kids.
Yeah.
Literally, what was he doing? That's what matters. That he's our living example of the
Yeah.
Torah. He's kept it perfect, so we can keep it perfect too if we just follow his example.
Yeah.
We don't have to go to Bobby 500 years later and see what he said. Just go to the clarification of the Torah right out of the Messiah's mouth, and let's stick with what he said.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Keep it simple.
Yeah. Agreed. Agreed.
But yeah, so after what was the first group that you tried to join in the Torah community, Mike? Do you want to jump into that at all, or
So you mean like locally or like online?
Either.
either one's fine? I know I read yesterday, or maybe it was today. You had joined, or you were with currently a messianic group, messianic.
Yes. Yeah. So that's locally. And in terms of online, I think that I had joined Sean Griffin's Facebook group,
Okay.
which was tremendously helpful, by the way. And I also think that it's sort of
Excuse me.
it's a tri group too. So it's also Wes Blaze and Ken Heidenbrecht.
Oh, okay.
So he's got the channel Hanging on His Words. I don't know if you've
Yes.
heard of them too. So that was also very helpful, getting to ask questions, to see everybody's thoughts and perspectives, and just to learn through those groups. That was helpful.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah. If there was someone that you would recommend apart from yourself, for maybe Christians who are searching or for new Torah persons, um, who is there like a top 5 you would recommend or a top 3?
Yeah, definitely. So we're gonna go with Sean Griffin. We're gonna go with Outside the Camp.
Yeah, Andrew.
I mean, they're both great, right, man? It just they different, but serve different purposes. They do different things.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to say, well, I mean, I did already mention like content by like Ken Heidenbrecht, his channel, Hanging on His Words. He really does have some phenomenal content. Who would be another good one to add to this list? I mean, technically, all of Rob Skiba's stuff is still up on YouTube.
Yep.
Yes.
I mean,
Just went and watched a
you
video
could definitely, of
yesterday.
course, still listen to that.
Yeah.
Who is else? There was someone else that came to my mind that I think is really great. Easy to listen to. Oh, okay. So David Wilbur and Psalm 119 Ministries. They're also both really great.
Yes.
Yes.
I especially
Yeah.
the cloud thing that he put out a couple months ago.
Yeah,
I was already on that, and so I watched it, and I was like, yes. So that was
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah. David Wilbur, his book on the Sabbath, really helped open the eyes of my wife. When she read that book, she grasped it. She really got it, and she heard it in a way that was different than me saying it to her.
Sure.
And I mean, God used his book so much in her life, which was so cool to see, because I got it for me to read it, and then she picked it up, she read it, made such an impact. And David Wilbur's website, Psalm 119 Ministries, their website, they answer a lot of the questions, at least in terms of like Torah observance, right? What does it mean?
Yes.
What's it really about? There's so many questions you could have. And yeah, that really helped a lot. What also helped too, it's even being messianic, right? So they, like, if you attend a messianic synagogue, there's probably going to be more traditions
Yeah.
than most people are, maybe ready for. But you do still get to celebrate the holy days. And once you experience how much more beneficial those are to your life and practical as a believer. I mean, it's just like you can't go back to, perceiving Christmas or Easter
Yep.
in light of the same thing once you're keeping Passover or the Feast of Tabernacles, or the, of trumpets. So,
Yep.
so wonderful. They really are. It's been such a blessing in my life.
Yeah, again, man, we have a lot of agreements on that. I don't know. This is our second group that we have at our home. The first one fell completely apart because of pagan holidays and versus holy days, and unfortunately,
hold on.
what?
Be a little
It
more
was it
clear.
was it was one family in particular, and then a few others decided to leave after. Um, but anyway, they've gone back to the world, and I don't know how they can do it because I can't do it, and maybe it's their eyes weren't fully opened. And I'm not talking just the holidays. There's also other things that go along with that, to include, violence in one case, and substances in another case. But it all stemmed from a disagreement on holy days versus holidays in this
Mm,
particular group.
yeah,
And
I
yeah,
totally get it.
and it was very sad. But I like what you're saying, they're such a blessing if you actually understand what they're for and why we do them. And there's so much fun, and there's so much fellowship, and so much love, and you don't even have to know everybody. Like, if let's say we took a road trip where you're at and came to your Messianic congregation, or you came down here and celebrated, with our congregation. We're just going to be happy that we're worshiping together, and we're all doing it with the love and the understanding of what they're for and what they represent and
Hmm.
what's to come. And
Yeah.
I just, like I said, I don't know how they were able to go back into that, because once you see it, you can't unsee it.
That's what I was
So
fixing
my
to
question
say.
is, did they actually see it?
Did
You
they
know?
ever actually see it? Because Mike, I don't know if you feel the same way, but there is, once you've seen this, you can't ignore it. You can't just say, okay, Yah didn't give me this information for nothing, so I can't just throw it to the side and say, okay, well, that's cool and all, God, but I'm out. I'm going to go back to my filth. You can't go back without feeling bad. So the question is these people that do end up falling back, the weed parable that we went over recently, that particular parable shows the types of people that end up getting the truth. Their roots are stuck in the gravel. They don't ever get enough grounding or enough moisture out of the soil. They fall over. They die. They go back into the world, and we've witnessed that in our group, and it's
Our
truly sad. It's
old,
truly sad.
not our current.
Our first attempt at this years ago.
Yeah, very first attempt at a home church.
Yeah.
We've learned so much since then.
Oh man, patience is key, Bob. Patience.
Yeah, I think there's times where you got to go hands off and all you can do is pray for people.
Hmm.
I also think it's hard at times to draw hard lines on some things, as far as like condemning others for what they do or don't
Hmm.
do. I think that there's also so much information out there and so much misinformation that many people, combined with the lack of good infrastructure in, Torah observant churches as well as Unitarian churches, that people can easily be pulled away, and
Yeah.
yeah, maybe some of them don't fully or never really fully saw it. That would probably be easier to accept than the fact that they do and then reject it.
Yep.
Yeah. It's fair.
So I think there's so many factors that play into it. And one of the things that I've been trying to do is change my perspective towards one that just seeks to sort of be the solution. I see a lot of complaining still in some of these groups, and you know, like, I mean, honestly, I think our local fellowship is a great example because we've sort of had to like do things differently, restructure, go different places. because of some fairly petty disagreements between people. And, that don't even have to do with the holidays. Like, people can agree on those things and then still lack the type of fruit it takes to maintain a body of people
Absolutely.
and to sacrifice and labor for others and to tolerate disagreements and to tolerate people's, crap and issues. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's certainly tough, just in general. It's easier actually when everything is surrounding very superficial traditions that you can just go through the motions of. And like, the more you can make our religion transactional, it's easier to just sort of do it while being sort of disconnected. And that's not what we want to do, right?
Yeah.
So it's hard. It's hard. There is a sense as well where we're like in dispersion, and we're trying to sort of pick up the pieces and to restore. And I think one of the things we really need are just more ecclesias. We need more people to be intentional about starting gatherings, and
Yes.
really being willing to do the labor and sacrifice for people and to put up with things. And if you come to it expecting just to constantly be served, and you have a bunch of strings attached, it's just going to fail.
I
That's a really
agree.
good point, Mike.
Yeah.
That's true. We don't
I
have enough
agree.
laborers in the field
That's
that
true.
want to put up with it. What I call the stupid, just the stuff that's just stupid, is
It's
Mm-hmm.
the
hard.
calendars, the things that Torah community argues about. Sometimes it just makes
Just
me
dumb.
mad to see. I'm like, guys,
None of
Yeah.
us is gonna 100% know until the millennial kingdom when he comes and corrects us
Yeah.
again. you know.
The good news is that most of the content creators I see who are talking about it, that's their perspective. What the truth is that what threw a wrench in what we perceive as Torah observant Christianity were the Hebrew roots guys.
okay,
Okay.
Okay, so that those are really not the same. There was a time where I think Torah observant Christians were sort of called Hebrew roots.
Okay.
Um, and I think to even some degree, I may even have accepted that title briefly
Mm-hmm.
because, our faith has a Hebrew root, and, people have forgotten about it, right? Like, of course, we should be a Hebrew roots, right? Like,
Yeah.
our faith has a Hebrew root, no brainer. But in reality, that group comes with, I think, strong forms of legalism, strong forms of top-down institutional corruption, a lot of, I think, the hate and needless division that you see, I think really comes from that group. I mean, take someone like Matthew Jansen, right? So he does he believe that keeping the Sabbath is really important? Yes. Does he think that there's even some scriptures which seem to suggest that one of the ways you're God's people is by keeping the Sabbath? Yes. But is he just walking around streaming online, if you don't keep the Sabbath, you're going to hell or something? Right? No, but that is the type of spirit you get from you'll see in these groups, and it sends people away. And I think that's more of a Hebrew roots thing, than it is a Torah observant thing.
yeah, and just we have. I would say I think we decided 4 or 5. We have 4 or 5 non-negotiables. Outside of that, we could be wrong. I think I've got 4 or 5 things. I think I've got them figured out, and I can prove them with the scripture.
And that's
Outside of that, man, we're
yeah.
open to interpretation, and I think at one point of our walk we were not as open because of pride, because of not humbling ourselves, and that sort of thing. Now we've
And that
come over that bridge now, but it did take some trial and error, and I think that at the end of the day, a handful of things that I can think of off the top of my head would be non-negotiables. I'm not going to sit and argue with anybody about any of it, but I will try to prove those 4 or 5 things scripturally. And that's that. Outside of that, man, we're like we love the idea of a conspiracy. You know what I'm saying? Like, show me something else. I'd like to see it. What you got?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, there's no reason for us to sit around and argue about it. And I've seen groups just explode because of what I would consider just silly stuff. Like, it's just silly. Like, what are you arguing for? Let's
Yep.
get together. Let's fellowship. Let's sharpen each other. Let's talk about it, not argue about it, you know?
Yeah.
And I find it interesting, just one more point, that the fellas that you debate online it's interesting to see their perspective of what they believe versus what you believe. And it's funny to me to really look at their body language and their just the way that they react
Their
to
tone.
their tone. And this guy the other day just tripped me out, by the way. I showed Jen a couple days ago. I think you put together a few things that was in that video, but that was just that shows the true colors of somebody. And it's just a simple debate. It's like, hey man, this is what I believe. This is what you believe. This is why I believe what I believe. And I thought that it's good to see someone on our side, Mike, that's not going to strike the first sword. That's not going to jump out there and be like, you're a name, you're a this, whatever. You didn't have to do that. You're just like, hey, Bible, man, this is what the Bible says. This is history. Sorry if this hurts your feelings, but it's good to see someone that's not willing to go down that, what I would consider just a sinful direction that's going to end up something they've got to answer for. I mean,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, they're going to answer for it.
Well, at the end of the day, also, people who take on those debates, such as Mike and Sean, etc., even Matthew did one recently, but it's good to see them keeping and bearing in mind that they represent an entire community versus I don't think the ones that I have seen, at least as of recently, a lot of the Christians do not seem to bear that in mind. It seems like they're coming to defend their personal beliefs and what they teach the people that follow them, but they're not really taking to mind, hey, I'm representing an entire community of people, so how I talk and the names that I call people, etc., reflects poorly on the people I'm teaching.
They're not learning anything. They're not actually absorbing anything. It's their way of the highway, and that hurts my feelings to watch. I'm just like, you guys are missing so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, we constantly have to remind ourselves of that because the same type of religious spirit we experience is the same one that Jesus came to destroy.
Absolutely.
Right. Look at Mark chapter 7.
Boom.
Right. He just hits them with like, Isaiah the prophet spoke of you, hypocrites, honoring me with your mouth, but your heart is far from me, teaching as doctrine the commandments of men. Right. And, like, just like you have these guys today saying, well, we come from apostolic succession, is just like the Pharisees saying, oh, well, we stem from our father Abraham.
Exactly.
Right. Like it's a total misunderstanding of what it's actually about. Like, if you're even trying to justify what you believe based on that, you've missed it.
Missed the mark.
Right. It's just that what all of this is about has bypassed you. Right. God can raise up apostles from the stones.
Yeah.
Right.
I was going to bring that up. John the Baptist.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Right. So like we constantly have to remind ourselves that what we're fighting is the same type of religious spirit that cheapens our faith into these transactional things. In Catholic and Orthodox tradition, they have these things called the sacraments. And the sacraments are them things that really traditions you need in order to have salvation.
Yep.
And, many of them, it's not like they're, quote, evil in themselves or wrong in themselves, but to frame your salvation around a set of 6 or 7 things that if you do, you can check that box off, again, is just missing the point, right? Like, does his body and blood, does it literally turn into it? Does it not? Baptism, is it like essentially salvific, or is it just, situational, right? All these different highly specific things are exactly what Christ was talking about when he says traditions of men.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so like we just got to remind ourselves of that and come to it, I think, with the same attitude that Christ did, which was one, a willingness to call it out, right? To speak the truth, but also to be full of mercy,
Yes.
right? Jesus, it's what it says, that he was full of truth and mercy,
Yes.
right? And so I think that's a key to this picture. And it's also realizing when to keep our mouths shut. I really appreciate what you're saying about me in these debates. I always think I could do better, and there are moments where I'd say I know I should do better, but I'm certainly trying my best. I think I have my sights set on what it should be. It's sort of tough sometimes too, because y- like, take that last debate for example. I don't really know what's going to go on with the moderator. He wasn't even really a moderator. He was just like a
I
timekeeper.
noticed that.
Right. He just
I
sat
was
there.
like,
So in many of these cases, I feel like I'm sort of set up,
hmm.
and it's sort of stacked against me. But
It felt like a
that's
2-on-1. It did. I told Brad I
yeah,
watched a couple minutes of
so
it.
that's just like the attitude that I'm trying to cultivate, the perspective I'm trying to have is like just really contextualizing that, the church today is lost in a way very similar to how God's people, the church, were lost at the time of Christ. And we got to approach it with truth and knowledge, but also a ton of mercy, a ton of patience, and genuine love. And if you can't, then we should be quiet. And that's sort of hard, I'd not to say that we always will do it perfectly, but um, yeah, that's something that's been on my mind recently, is just trying to have that type of perspective to it.
Yeah, that's a great thing. It's a great statement, and I hope if anybody else is thinking about doing any of those things that they'll listen to those words and heed them, because it's very important to know when to be quiet, and when to speak out. And, it comes with practice. Obviously, nobody's going to be perfect at it at first, and probably never likely will be exactly perfect at it. But
Hmm.
I like what you're saying, or like you're trying to keep that in mind, and doing the best you can. And it seems to me, after watching some of your videos even recently, that that's what you're trying to do, and you're trying to practice, and calling it out when you're being treated unfairly. It's okay to do that too. Saying like, hey, I don't know why we're throwing names around right now. I'm just trying to bring you some historical documentation as you asked me.
Hmm.
Let's keep it simple, guys.
Well, I mean, see, what happens if that falls out of perspective is that it becomes about us, our own
Exactly.
ego, about
That's right, Mike.
trying to get views, or for your own glory, and just the vanity metrics of social media. And that's just a complete waste of time. And like, I'm so busy in my life, and I have so many responsibilities, that's not even a good enough motivating factor for me to get out of bed. Right. Like, you know, like really though, right? That's what hurts the most about these debates. It's not just like being mistreated. It's that I feel like the truth wasn't as heard clearly as it should have been. The truth of the matters we're discussing we aren't really getting to the bottom of them, because we have all this ego and pride
Pride.
and stuff getting in the way. And so I mean, that's the real tragedy. Like, it
Yes.
sucks to be treated that way, but it sucks even more to think of all the people who just didn't hear the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Mike, you
You know,
said that. You said that in that last video. You said, "Man, I'm really just trying to reach some of your viewers. I really just want to get this out so they can hear this." And I thought that's exactly right. Hey, some of the people that listen to you need to hear this, man. He obviously was not going to allow that. I look at those people as workers of Satan, man, and I hate to say it like that, just because that's just what it feels like. Anytime someone brings the truth to the table, in our experience, it's always somebody or something that stops them, and I equivalent that with the adversary, and they are literally trying to stop the truth. If you're bringing the truth, you're going to be called names, you're going to be attacked. If anytime you're not being attacked, Mike, you're probably not saying the right words, brother. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just
yeah.
keep
Well,
going.
I mean, I would agree insofar that it probably is right, that many of these doctrines and things people defend, and just these ancient hold grudges they hold from these guys from thousands of years ago, that none of them know,
Yes.
have talked to, or can speak to. I'm sure it probably goes right up to the top of the chain, which is just Satan himself.
Yeah.
But I also think many of these guys are just deceived. and they genuinely are deceived.
Yeah.
You know,
Mercy comes in, right? That's what
yeah,
you're saying. That's where you
yep,
gotta try to figure out how to
Yeah.
walk that humble line that's not going to get you on the adversary side. And I think
Well, and that's what we are talking. Sorry to interrupt, but
no,
that's
go
what we
ahead.
were talking about a couple of Shabbats ago. Is um, like, look, even if these people say we're born to be on Satan's side, okay?
Sure.
Like Cain was called the son of Satan, right? So they were just born to be on that side. Does that make you any better than them, right? Because you're both creations and you're both under the same sky. You both get the same rain, so it doesn't make you any better. Now, should you know, like Paul, when to, dust your feet off or whatever?
Sure.
Yes. But that doesn't mean that you in any way should have a priority of yourself over them. And I feel that's where the pride comes in. Well, I know more, or you're just not doing this, that, and the other.
Right.
And that seems, as you're saying in the debates, that seems to come more from the other people, at least in the ones that I've watched
Oh man,
of your
we're
debates. It
all
seems to,
heretics. If you go against the Trinity, man, you're a heretic. I can't
yeah,
believe you would do that. You're going to hell. I mean, I've heard that so many times on
yeah,
that side of the coin. I'm just like, guys, the Trinity was made up by man. It's literally, you can look it up. It's
yeah,
not. Come on, this is so common. Man, it makes me mad sometimes watching, brother. I get a
yeah,
little shaky. I'm just like, man, tell that guy how the cow eats the cabbage,
yeah.
Mike. Tell him.
Yeah, you know what's that quote? It says that if you tell a lie loud enough and often enough, people will believe it.
yep,
That's right.
absolutely.
And so I think that it's so crazy. People have been taught how to read the Bible, right? Through this lens that's sort of
Yep.
skewed. And it's like they
Yes.
can't not see it.
Yes.
And
I don't
it's
think
so
animals do. I don't think God wants them. Their eyes are not open until He says it's time. We talk about this a lot. They read the
some of
stars.
them, I don't know about all of them. I think some people are sort of a slave to the systems that they're in,
Mm-hmm.
as well as like the support structures built in their life. You see, that's another factor here that people aren't realizing is that, you know, I mean, the cost of speaking the truth is like not having great fellowship. But I mean, do you know how
That's true.
amazing good fellowship is? I mean, it's amazing. It's necessary to have a fully bloomed Christian life. And so, people have these allegiance to doctrines, which I think are really more about being accepted by a group
That's right.
that they
Mm-hmm.
happen to be in, whether that's, a local non-denominational church or it's a Catholic church, etc. And that's insane to think about, like how big of a hurdle that really is, because now you're not just, fighting a lie, some false X thing, but now you're fighting against someone's sense of their own identity, of their
Yes.
own sense of value and acceptance amongst their peers.
Absolutely.
And like, what would they call that? Like that word you can't talk about, like unaliving yourself, like
Mm-hmm.
social. It's like sort of what it is, and
Yeah.
that feels like a whole other type of level of beast to have to handle. And that's, I guess, why it comes full circle, huh? We need even more mercy. We need
Yeah.
even more prayer.
It's so true.
Yes.
you know,
Absolutely. 100.
That's a really good point.
It is
Actually,
a really good point.
that's so true, Mike. We struggled for many years not having. We were alone. We had the
Us.
internet and us. We were able to just, hey man, this is what we're reading. This is what we're seeing. No one around us. Everyone around us thinks that we're all that we're wrong and that we're not gonna. Even our family members, man, it was a
Most of our family
struggle.
members. Yeah.
We went on a
We still
mission,
do.
and
Most of them.
most of them. But we went on a mission to try to spread the truth, and we've slowly, gradually built enough people around us now to where we do get a little bit of fellowship,
Mm-hmm.
and it is very helpful to us and our kids and our these are things we've been thinking about. We've even been drawn
yeah,
back into maybe we should go join this group just so that our kids have someone to talk to. Because
I
Mm-hmm.
know, right?
it's
Yeah.
tough.
Yeah. Like even a Sunday church, right?
Yeah,
Sure.
that was what we thought about at first, and we tried it, like I said, for I think like we tried one church for 2 or 3 weeks, and we tried another one for about a month.
Maybe 4 trips.
But
Yeah.
one one church, like I said, kind of it was the pastor I went to talk to about the hey, you said you didn't do these things, and that was one of them. And then the other one singled us out every single
Yeah.
Sunday. Like the music minister's wife was super nice, and she was like, we know that y'all believe in Sabbath, but you can, come and worship with us on Sunday still. There's nothing wrong with worshiping God every day of the week. And I was like, well, that's true. I like that viewpoint. So we decided to go there, but the pastor didn't like us. It was like he zoned in on us and just like stared literally. Like at first I thought the first week it was a coincidence. I was like, that's
Sure.
weird. And then the second week I was like, okay, I'm a little uncomfortable. And then by the fourth week, he wouldn't even talk to us at like the potlucks or anything that we were invited to go to. We would
We're the
try to
outsiders.
talk to him and he would
Yeah.
beeline away.
Mm.
But he just made it a point to, and he would even say things,
Yeah, in his sermons. He was,
yeah, that would kind of call us out to his congregation, if that makes sense. Like he
Sabbath
knew we were
means
Sabbath.
nothing anymore. We don't keep
Yes.
the Sabbath around here. I'm just
And
like, wow.
and Sunday is
Okay.
the most important day of the week for a Christian, and and he would look right at us while doing that. And so it became very apparent we were not welcome there. So,
So
but
lame.
it is.
Lame.
It so is lame.
Just pull them aside, talk to you, tell them right to your face.
That,
Listen, I think this is wrong. Let's talk about it. But I love you, right?
yeah,
As long as you don't,
yeah,
as long as you don't cause problems, you're welcome here, right?
well,
Just take it like straight on.
yeah,
That's it. That's the religiosity. That's the spirit, right? That um has got in the way of the greater matters of faith. You wonder why our country is going in, it seems like a downward trajectory, just like I'm speaking more of like in a moral sense. There just seems to be like this moral decay,
absolutely.
and with each generation it like sort of compounds, and
Hmm.
like there's always like this next thing that's just pushing that line a little bit further, right? And what we have to think is normal, and what's like why is there just this filth across entertainment and music and movies, and like what is it? It's because of all these traditions, these false um so-called foundational pillars of their faith, like denying the Sabbath, or
Sure.
we can eat whatever we want,
Hmm.
and God is three persons in one essence, and you can't question that.
How dare you, Mike?
And
How
you
dare you?
like the I'm telling you, same thing. Verily, verily, these people honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. Right? Teaching as
Absolutely.
doctrine the commandments of men. Like, verily, you leave the commandment of God to hold to your tradition,
Bam.
right?
Yes.
And by your tradition make the word of God of no effect. So
Yes.
that's it. I think that's really the reason why it's these core aspects of what should be true Christianity have been lost, and they've been replaced with all sorts of things. Non-denominational churches at times are even worse than the bigger established ones. Like, they'll end in some very weird left field places. And so, yeah,
You ain't
that's
lying.
that's what we're up against. And it's I'm so sorry you guys experienced that. I can only imagine how awkward that would be,
Oh
but
man, you
Uh,
should have been
it makes it
there.
like impossible,
It
right,
makes
to
for
be
a
there.
great story, though. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? It's a great
True.
story.
We should get that.
Right. The memento at the end of the occasion. Take home
Yeah.
package. It's a care package.
Yeah,
I got a
yeah.
care
Mhm.
package.
Yeah.
But no, I agree with you. Will from Sheepdog Ministries put out a really good one the other day
Oh,
about
yeah,
the eating clean versus unclean, and he started it off with homosexuality because that's what everybody, I don't want to say all the most of the Christian denominations in the South are against anyway.
Right.
And so he's like, should they be upset by that? Absolutely. It's an abomination, as in this thing. But what you guys forget is that also eating unclean things is an abomination. So he's kind of, in a lighthearted sort of way. It was okay, it wasn't as lighthearted as he normally is, but it was very pointed, but I thought it was kind of lighthearted. I'm not the one getting pointed out though. But anyway,
That's
but you
Yeah.
know, he makes a really good point, and as you did, you make the word of none effect because of the hypocrisy, unfortunately, because they bend to some rules and not to others.
But that's us though. They point us out as being the Pharisees, and I'm like, guys, you guys are literally doing the same things that they are doing that he was pointing out. But they think it's us. They're like, oh, you guys are trying to get us to do the Jew things again, and I'm just like, golly.
Did you not read Paul?
Have you read Paul's letters at all?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. All the first Christians were Jews. The first Christian church was in Jerusalem, filled with all Jews, right? All the
No
first Gentile
Gentiles.
Christians were converted by Jews, right?
That's right.
You know, but yeah, you're a Judaizer.
Yeah.
Okay? Like,
Yep.
yeah,
Or the opposite, you're anti-Semitic because
yeah,
you're
yeah.
like the Jews
Yeah.
don't have Messiah, so they're not part of God's people at the moment, you know? So like they can come back. They're the original
Yeah.
olive tree. Well, not the Jews, the
Yeah.
Israelites, but you know what I'm saying? Like, and then you're anti-Semitic. So on the one hand, you're getting smacked for being a Judaizer, and then on the other hand, you're getting smacked for being anti-Semitic, and you're like,
Both
I'm not
sides.
either of those things.
Yeah, what a joke. And that's what the Bible says though, right? It calls them the feast of the Jews.
Yes.
yeah.
Right? They're the feast of the Jews. No, they're the feast of the Lord, right? Like,
Yep.
you know, they just
I like
these are
that.
these are Jewish things. Really?
'Cause-
Are they? Like they sound just like basic Christian things to me. They were all doing it,
Yeah. Yeah, man.
and it was a blessing.
Yes.
It was a good thing, right?
Exactly.
But like Paul was just speaking against self-justification through the works of the law, right?
That's it.
Yes.
That's it.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny how right he was, because he said as
he's
soon
so
as he
good.
left that, you know, all sorts of heresies and incorrect doctrines would come in, and boy, did it. They love to twist him, but nobody pays heed to Peter when he said, hey, Paul's hard to understand, so you might want to learn first, you know, before you,
Go read the front of the book.
you
before
know,
start reading Paul.
and it makes you just want to
Yeah.
like do a face palm and just
Yeah.
beat
Yeah.
your forehead a bit.
But that's why we exist, right? And that's why we're on social media,
Yep.
doing our best to make that difference.
Absolutely.
Sounding the shofar, brother. We're sounding the shofar.
At least trying to.
Sound in the shofar.
Well, man.
But brother, we don't have nothing else unless you've got something else you want to add to that. That was pretty good. That just kind of, we didn't get a whole lot of your life story, but we ended up running through the things that we all deal with. So that's cool. That'll be
Yeah.
very helpful to other folks as they
Absolutely.
go through these and listen to them.
I think it'd be good for any and all congregations to listen to what everybody's been through and how to deal with it. And, you know, instead of causing a stink, just say, okay, you know, thank you. And, well, that's not right, but.
Right.
But also, I love you.
Yeah,
You know?
Right. Right.
So if they take nothing else away, just say, that's not right, but I love you. You know?
Mhm.
That's right.
So.
Well, thank you so much for having me on, guys, and getting to talk. Yeah, you know, it's hard to know what at times how personal you should or shouldn't go, but I
Oh,
hope
no,
that
that's
yeah,
good.
you know, I've certainly enjoyed getting to speak with you guys. Hopefully, it gets to bless some people, and yeah, I appreciate you guys thinking of me, and thank you so much for watching my channel
Yes,
and
sir.
your
Yeah.
feedback. It really means a lot to me.
Absolutely. Maybe we can have you on again sometime. And we appreciate you taking your time to come and talk to us, too.
We know you got kids, you got a family, man. You just breaking
And
off
working, and
any
his
time
channel.
for us, you know, and your channel. We appreciate you doing that. That's awesome.
Hey, well, you're so welcome. Thank you guys again.
All right. We have a great night.
All right, you too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, that was fun.
Yeah.
Metaphysics Mike.
I almost took my headphones off. I was like, oh,
Well,
no.
you gotta do that.
I forgot we have a
We
closing.
can just a quick little closing. Mike seems like he's had similar situations
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
we've had. He's dealing with folks daily now when he's on this channel.
And he's a good decade younger than us, you know. So
to ask
I
him
can't
what it was.
imagine. And didn't it say he was like 31?
I believe so. I need to ask him that. We'll make sure we don't put something else out there that's true. Did I tell you it was 30?
You showed me on the thing.
Okay, maybe it was.
You're going to have to cut part of this out. But,
You said this last time, but we're just going to let it play.
okay.
We
Anyway.
sure appreciate Mike coming on, spending time with us. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was. I
We'll,
enjoyed listening to his story and getting to talk to him, and
Yeah, man, he's a cool guy.
he's very eloquent. I like the way he words things.
Yeah, he's not Arkansan like me.
That's
I
right.
like it.
He's not a hillbilly.
I mean, you spend time with guys like Mike when your vocabulary is like mine, and you end up smarter. You know.
Absolutely. I agree with that.
Wow. Thanks,
Love
wife.
you.
Love you too. Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see y'all later.
Have a good night, or day,
Or
or morning.
whenever.
Bye bye.